Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Western Alliance Era 2 Premium Tank Destroyer, the Arcane Cannon, which is one of the new Halloween vehicles for 2025. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Arcane Cannon. It's a pretty solid little bottom era 1 tank destroyer, to be honest. The gun is really accurate on paper, but does like to miss shots if you're not fully aimed. You've got a multi-weapon system ATGM, which is really handy. The camo can be decent for Cold War on this vehicle. The mobility is quite nice. Naturally, the two downsides really of this vehicle is the fact that your alpha is pretty low for Era 2, because a lot of the tanks in Era 2 generally have 440, 450, 460 plus. This has 360, which is quite low, but you've got a pretty decent reload to compensate for that. And the other downside is you've got no armor. You're quite big and you've got absolutely no armor, which means that the autocannon tanks like Weasel 1MK and the XM800T, VADS, GAU8 Avengers, that sort of thing, see you, lock on with RB and delete you as they drive past. That's what they do, and that can be a royal pain for this vehicle, but this vehicle is a support tank. It doesn't want to be the frontline vehicle. It wants to be there where it's supporting someone else or trying to be that more sniper-esque vehicle where it's firing from afar while the enemy tanks are distracted brawling with something else, and you can just constantly pump out damage and wait for the ATGM to be loaded and dish out the big damage with the ATGM as well. Like I say, on the whole, it's not an excellent tank, but it's not a bad tank. It's a pretty well-balanced vehicle coming into Era 2. You can do stuff with it. Sometimes you'll feel like you're going to get wrecked, and you will get wrecked because of autocannons, but generally, on the whole, it's a pretty decent tank, the Arcane Cannon. And in the store, let's have a quick look how much it is. So you can see it, 10,400, which isn't too bad for a Cold War Premium, especially one that has a good silver bonus, which means it will make good silver. But yeah, generally it's just one of those vehicles that some people will probably like the tank and the playstyle, some people probably won't, but there we go. So let's get into the statistics of the vehicle. So as you can see, you got 64.3 kilometer an hour top speed, 26.7 kilometer an hour reverse speed, 750 horsepower engine, which is 24.36 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you fly up to the top speed pretty easily. Reverse speed's fine. You don't really suffer with the mobility whatsoever, and if you run the turbocharger, you will get even quicker with the vehicle, which is nice. 18% internal fire chance is on the high end of fire chances, although I've not really been set on fire that often in this vehicle. I've just jinxed myself now forever. That's it. I'm going to get set on fire all the time, but hey-ho. 40 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means this tank does turn pretty decently quickly on its tracks, which is always nice. Ground resistances, just like pretty much every tank in Cold War, don't hold the tank back whatsoever. 309 metres of still concealment with 378 metres of on-the-move concealment. Means, again, if you run the improved concealment, you can get it down to about 270 metres of still concealment, which isn't too bad. Naturally, your on-the-move camo will be a lot worse, but it'll still be a lot better when you run the improved concealment. And again, when you're in those stationary positions where you'll see that in probably one of the replays where you can just stay still, get your gun, keep going, supporting your vehicles, etc., you will be able to use that camo quite nicely, and it'll be a struggle to actually spot you unless there's people yellowing around in front of you, which happens a lot in Era 2, but yeah, there's still a lot of opportunities to use that camo. 570 metres of view range means you can spot for yourself pretty well as well for the Arcane Cannon. That's very good view range actually for Era 2. 36 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the tracks, so do bear that in mind, that the turret traverse is a lot slower, but for a turret to tank destroyed, 36 degrees a second on the turret rotation is actually pretty quick, and is not too bad whatsoever. And to be fair, that's not slow anyway. 1.24 accuracy during rotation isn't very good, but a 1.82 accuracy during movement isn't too bad. As a pair, it means the aim circle when you turn the tank and the turret, etc., the aim circle will become rather large, but it's not horrendous. It's not horrendous like some other TDs. So that's all right for the Arcane Cannon. And a lot of the time, you're not going to be wanting to take shots on the move in this thing anyway, because it will miss those shots on the move. This is one of those tanks where you've got to be stationary, have your gun fully aimed, and get to fire your shots. Because if you're not fully aimed, I say the gun, even though accuracy-wise it's really good, likes to miss. You've got a 1.9 second aim time, which is excellent as well, means the gun gets aimed in supremely quickly, with a 0.28 accuracy at 100 metres. Now again, this is where Cold War accuracy feels a bit dodgy at times, because we're going to get down to 0.26 accuracy, which is really good, like really accurate, and if any tank in World War II had that, it's an absolute laser and never misses, or it hits 9 out of 10 shots. In Cold War, for some reason, if you've got a 0.26 accuracy, you probably hit 6 or 7 out of 10 shots, and you sit there going, the gun should be far more accurate than this. How does it miss some of these shots? So yeah, it's one of those frustrating points, but at the same time, 0.26 accuracy when you get, well, 0.828 accuracy at base is still really good. You got 10 degrees of gun depression, which means you're incredibly flexible on a ridgeline, which is great for the Arcane cannon. With 20 degrees of elevation, means you don't really struggle to look up with the gun either. And a 6.1 second reload is 3.5k DPM, which, again, absolutely solid. Means that once you get it up to 4k DPM, it's not that bad in Era 2 whatsoever. And again, with the multi-weapon system as well, you're effectively keeping damage going all the time. And then you're hitting people, say for 360 alpha, which is a bit low, but you're consistently pushing out the rounds with this gun, and then being able to smash people with the ATGMs as well. It's the nice factor of having a multi-weapon system. The multi-weapon system vehicles are always pretty lethal for that. You got 389mm of penetration on the standard AP, because standard AP, which is a weird one for Era 2. 446 penetration on the premium APCR, and 100mm of penetration on the HE rounds. Now, the 389mm of penetration on the AP is a little bit low, and will struggle to pen quite a few vehicles, but then you've got fantastic penetration at 446 on the premium, which again means that you won't struggle too badly with that. And 100mm of penetration on the HE for 470 alpha, it's not really that usable, to be honest, on the Arcane cannon. You can use it against some of the really lightly armoured vehicles, like some of the light tanks. If you've got the rear of an XM800T, for example, if you put HE round in 470, you're likely going to set it on fire as well, which is quite handy, but generally you're not going to use it that often. You've got 1,265 metres of second shell velocity on the standard AP, which is pretty good, but for Era 2 standards, there's a lot of shells that are going a lot faster than that these days. And with 1,320 metres of second shell velocity on the premium APCR, that is a lot better than the standard. And the velocity is still great. It's still pretty good velocity. It's just for Era 2 standards, a lot of them are going 1,100 metres of second shell velocity, so it's a little bit slower than your average Era 2 vehicle. But yeah, the penetration over distance as well is quite a big drop-off for the AP and the APCR. That's where you might consider running the Expert Gunner to get that penetration over distance loss not as affected, right? So that's definitely an option. I don't run it, but it's definitely an option, especially when you're going to be playing this thing at pretty decent distances. And as it is a premium, it has a 165% silver bonus, by the way, which is absolutely fantastic. It means you make a lot of silver. And these ATGMs, which I nearly forgot to cover there, well done, brain. You got a 30-second reload for these ATGMs, which is quite long, but naturally you're technically a bottom era tank, so yeah, your ATGMs is going to be quite a long reload, but when they do go in, you're going to hit people pretty hard, as you do have the 800mm of penetration, which means you do not struggle to pen things with this magic missile, as it's called. You don't struggle to pen things with the 800mm of penetration whatsoever, and you have 900 damage. Naturally, ATGMs are one of those things, though, if they hit too much space armor or ERA and that sort of thing, they will just randomly get absorbed, so it's not like you're going to butcher everything, but you'll still do 900 damage pretty well with that 800mm of penetration going through things. And you've also got 450 meters a second shell velocity on that ATGM, which is supremely quick for an ATGM, meaning it won't struggle whatsoever to be able to lead the targets too badly. That is a really quick ATGM, which is, again, an absolute benefit for the Arcane cannon, mixed in with the fact that you've got the 65 meters of minimum arming distance, which is absolutely fantastic as well. I mean, you don't actually have to be too far away from your opponents to be able to use them. So this ATGM is actually really, really good. The only downside to it is the fact that it's quite a long reload for it, but the other benefits you get with the top speed being pretty quick and the minimum arming distance being at 65, that's pretty good for the Arcane cannon. So let's have a look at the modules for the Arcane cannon. That's where the engine block is back of the tank, naturally. You've got the ammo storage all over the place in the middle of the tank, and a lot of the time, if they do shoot you in this middle area here or in the back of the turret, they're probably going to damage your ammo rack, so you've got to be careful of that in the Arcane cannon. And that's where the crew sits in the Arcane cannon as well. You've got to be careful because, naturally, we run the pain tolerance, jack of all trades, and patch kit method, which means that if they shoot you here, the likelihood is they're probably going to kill your commander, which then means jack of all trades becomes pointless. And to be honest, even though I'm running pain tolerance and stuff like that, I'm still getting my crew killed quite often, which is quite annoying, especially when you can't put them back in. But as long as they don't kill your commander, you're alright, because jack of all trades will fill in or compensate for the 50% of the downside of having your crew killed, right? Armour, like I say, this thing is made of pure spit and Kleenex. It's just not got any armour whatsoever. As you can see, 20mm, 25mm. The only thing you've got is a 40mm plate of spaced armour on the front. Now, you might think, well, yeah, but it's on spit and Kleenex. It's true, it is on spit and Kleenex. 57mm of armour behind it. Or the upper plate, which is, if we go find it in the reel, there you go, 63mm of armor. Yeah, it's got absolutely no armor. But that 40mm of spaced armor can absolutely randomly save you from ATGMs, because ATGMs hit that, they might just get randomly absorbed, and also just random shells that ricochet or bounce off of that plate as well, which can be a bit of a godsend at times in the Arcane cannon, but don't ever rely on this armor, it's going to get butchered most of the time. So what do I run in terms of a crew and a cannon? Crew and a cannon? Yes, brain. A crew and equipment on the Arcane cannon. That's what we were trying to go for. So in terms of a crew, I run Born Leader, Camouflage Expertise, Situational Awareness, Radio Jamming, Snapshot, Run and Gun, the Supply Conservation, Pain Tolerance, and Jack of all trades. Now, Pain Tolerance to just decrease the chance of getting my crew injured, as well as Jack of all trades to basically let the commander fill in for those crew members if they get knocked out, because there's still a chance. It's RNG, right? RNG might still go, you know what? We're going to knock out your crew member, and that'll be pain. Supply Conservation to get the patch kit and the food back faster, because it's always handy to do that. Run and Gun and Snapshot to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible. So again, the aim circle isn't too huge. Still is quite big, but it's handy to just run those gun perks. Radio Jamming to decrease the time spotted by an enemy by 3 seconds, so that, again, we can get unspotted in 7 seconds. That's pretty handy for this vehicle, and it counteracts the comms expert as well as people do that. You can run Situational Awareness, which is one that you can switch out, but I run Situational Awareness just so I can spot people at further distances. And also, if I'm in a slightly more aggressive position, I'm spotting people easier as well, meaning that I've got the best view range possible. I light people up. It means I get a lot of assistance damage for spotting those people, which can be pretty handy. Again, it's one that you can definitely switch out for Rapid Aim or Expert Gunner, or you could run the Armour Angling to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank. You know, there's plenty of other options, or even Rapid Aim because the turret traverse is slower than the tracks. There's plenty of different options to replace Situational Awareness on this crew, or even Comms Expert for keeping things lit up for an extra 3 seconds, right? There's plenty of options for this crew, and that's just what I run to make the most out of everything. And again, get that better assistance damage, get the better gun handling, run to be able to run the patch kit without too much pain, get the patch kit back faster, and have that little bit extra camo so that I can stay unspotted when I'm in my farmy locations. And then in terms of equipment for this tank, we run the food, naturally, to make everything better, advanced loader, vents, the powertrain, and the improved concealment. Now again, there is so many different options you can take in terms of equipment on this vehicle. It's really down to you and how you're going to want to run this vehicle. So the advanced loader, naturally, get better DPM. It's what you want to do in a tank destroyer, always. Vents, just again, help the DPM out, get it that little bit better, get the aim time a little bit better, get everything in general about the vehicle that little bit better. The benefit is fairly small, but it's something that I definitely like myself. The turbocharger, sorry, it's not powertrain, the turbocharger, to be able to get that extra speed on the vehicle by 5% on the horsepower. It doesn't improve it that much, but that little extra mobility is always handy for a vehicle like this, especially with no armor. And the improved concealment to get that concealment down to a pretty decent level so that, again, I can play that support tank and I can fire my gun a lot of the time without getting spotted all that easily. And then, like I said, we're running patch kit and food because it's nice to be able to get the HP back on this vehicle, especially if you're always going to be taking hits and getting penned. And then the food to get everything about the tank better. But you could definitely drop the vents for something like the ammo swapper if you wanted to switch between the 3 different rounds. You could run the flash hider instead to be able to reduce the effect of firing on our concealment, again helping us stay unspotted that little bit longer. The aim time is already fantastic. You don't need a GLD on this, but if you feel like you want to get the aim time to be quicker so you can get shots out downrange faster, you could definitely run the GLD, but it's just not... I mean, you've got 1.78 second aim time. I mean, if we were to put the GLD on instead, what's the benefit we've gained from it? We're at 1.64. So yeah, you've gained, what, 0.14 of a second on your aim time, but it's not as important as having slightly better reloads and stuff like that for me personally, but it's down to you and how you want to kit out the vehicle as to how you're going to get the best out of this tank. So let's get into the statistics of the vehicle now it's fully kitted out. So as you can see, we've got a 67.52 km/h top speed, 28 km/h reverse speed, 787 horsepower engine, which is 25.58 horsepower per ton ratio. So the horsepower per ton ratio's got better. We've got a better top speed and reverse speed, which is nice for the Arcane cannon. Ground resistances have got a little bit better, but again, they don't hold the tank back whatsoever anyway. 260 meters of still concealment, which means, again, it's a lot easier for us to stay at distance, stay unspotted, and keep farming. Because a lot of the time, you might be thinking, well, this thing has a big blue radar on the top of the tank in the ATGM that will give you away. True vision is a thing. They can see you with true vision. But the thing is, a lot of people don't use true vision. They will use when people are actually spotted and they have the physical outline and they appear on their screen. A lot of people will just focus hard on those people as opposed to the people that are shooting them without true vision. And even then, if you're staying unspotted and not having the outline appear, not having the big name tag appear above you, a lot of the time that means that they have to physically find you. So you can put 1 or 2 shots in, and the moment you realise, okay, they're going to find me, you can just run away and get repositioned, right? And then not take a hit. So having that concealment in Cold War is still a pretty handy thing to have. You got 648 meters of view range, which means you spot for yourself fantastically, and you can spot people so far away. It's great, or at the cap anyway. But even the people that have really good camo, you can spot, which is nice. 38 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is that little bit faster than it was before, but it's still not faster than the tracks. You've got the 1.1 accuracy during rotation now, with the 1.59 accuracy during movement. Again, accuracy during movement is pretty good for a tank destroyer like this. Accuracy during rotation is not great, to be honest, at 1.10. But that's the best you're going to get it, and it still, as a combo, isn't terrible. You got a 1.78 second aim time as well, which means, again, the gun gets aimed in very, very quickly on this vehicle with a 0.26 accuracy at 100 meters. Again, that accuracy is fantastic. At times, it doesn't feel like the 0.26 accuracy it says on paper, because it does like missing shots that you sit there going, really, gun? Did you have to miss that? Thanks for that. You got a 5.3 second reload with 4,075 HP of DPM. There you go. Because I read it as HP per minute, it says here. But anyway, yeah, your damage per minute is 4,075, which again, for Hero 2 these days, isn't too bad. It's not incredible, but it's also not too bad, especially since you also have the ATGM on top of that in your multi-weapon system, which is 26 seconds for the reload. So we've knocked nearly 4 seconds off the reload for the ATGM, which is really nice. And again, you can slap people for that 900 alpha that this ATGM has. And again, that velocity is fantastic on this ATGM, and having the minimum arming distance at 65 as well is great. But yeah, that's the Arcane cannon with it kitted out the way we've got it set up. It's a vehicle, like I say, that's not absolutely incredible, but it's also not bad. It's a tank that can stand up for itself pretty well, gets absolutely mushed by the auto cannons, just like any other tank that doesn't have any armour, let's be real. But as a TD... As a bottom era TD for the Arcane cannon, you've got the multi-weapon system, which is nice with the ATGM. You've got a main cannon, which is pretty decent. And on the whole, it's just a pretty decent tank. So what we're going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you or not. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Arcane cannon, and this very first game is here on this map, which is Airfield. And on Airfield, what I want to do is try and go to the position at E7, because from there I can try and shoot at people that push up the F line, because quite a few people do that in Cold War. But also I can shoot people as they cross the BC line as well. I can try and get an early ATGM out of people that are at C1, D1. There's many options for that position, and if I need to bug out, I can just drop off the cliff and fall back into the middle area quite quickly as well. So, not many of my team are actually coming this way. We've got me and this medium tank with us here, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be many people here. So we will have to keep our eye on what is going on with their team, because again, this is one of those positions that a lot of their team can just come this way and end up flooding out this CDE area. So we get seen by the XM800T, so we just got to be careful of that XM800T, because naturally he can just absolutely trash us. With 65 meters of arming distance though, you can see me just using the distance calculator there to see, is he 65 meters away? Yes, he is. So if that guy drives around that corner, I'm getting an ATGM in him, I'm slapping him for nearly 900 damage. That's what we're doing here. We don't get the chance to get the Marder A1, but we look round that corner, can't see the XM800T. I'm expecting that XM800T to just drive round that corner right there. And then so you can see me pointing my gun that way. I'm thinking, is he going to do it? I'm just going to see if I can get a shot at anyone across the way. And there he is. We should have just been a bit more patient. We get a shot from the ATGM into him. And just like that, in the blink of, what was that? That wasn't even 5 seconds. We've lost 3/4 of our hit points. And that's what it's like when you go against these autocannon vehicles. So we've pulled back into a position where I'm safe. If they drive too far around that corner, I should get shots into them. But I'm also in a position now where I can use my patch kit to get as much HP back as humanly possible. So you can see I'm just scanning the area. Now, with the ATGM being above the vehicle, I might not quite get shots at these dudes, but I can actually use the ATGM to aim over the ridge and fire, because the way that the ATGM is positioned on the vehicle, it's a lot higher than the main cannon. So you can actually see over ridge lines with the ATGM that you can't with the main cannon. It's a bit throwy-offy at times, because sometimes you might try and do the thing where you fire the ATGM and then switch to your main cannon to be able to fire the gun while also using the ATGM. But it doesn't quite work out like that sometimes, because your gun might actually be pointing at the floor and then you miss the ATGM because of it. So we only take one rocket from the Monster Jaeger there, put a shot into him, and then fall off the cliff. Probably should have, if I'd driven a little bit better there, we could have just stayed on to use the ATGM. But I should go back into the middle at G5 instead, but I don't. And I come around this corner because I wanted to flick round into G4, but there's actually an M55S here. Who is stopping me from doing that? I'm now stuck because I can't get away from the M55S, because if I drove forward and drove over to where I wanted to go along the F line, he was going to kill me anyway. The XM800T from earlier drives up behind us and just finishes us off. But that was a fairly average game there for the Arcane Cannon, which thankfully my team ended up carrying through to the victory with 4.5k damage. The second class with the 11-15 base XP again. Fairly average game there for the vehicle, and yeah, just what happens when you generally end up against autocannons. They do absolutely shred this poor vehicle, and just like any other tank that has no armour, to be fair, Object 120s, even any of the light tanks, any of the sort of lightly armoured TDs, that sort of thing, even the lightly armoured MBTs, poor leopards. They just get absolutely shredded by the autocannons. And there's not much you can do when one comes screaming around the corner and just decides to delete loads of your hit points by locking on. And even then, a lot of the time, they'll end up deleting all of their own hit points because they'll run into your team and die, but they've taken 3/4 of your hit points. So, yeah, great times. But I digress. We're on to the second replay here. And this second replay, we're here on this map, which is Rezanai. And on Rezanai, what I want to do is, I was thinking about going to the castle area, going to G4, maybe going to H3, but look where my team is. A lot of them have done what they generally do on Cold War and Era 2, Era 3 especially. Our team is just full sent up the 8-9 line, which means I don't really want to go anywhere near the castle. I'll stay here on this little ledge here where I can possibly get some extra shots into people as they attack our guys along the sea line. And then again, I can run down this ledge on my right-hand side if I get spotted and I need to run away, because they do have people generally camping along the A45 area. So if we get spotted here, we're going to get shot by those dudes. We don't want that. So I switched to my ATGM because we see the M60A1 who is spotted up at A5. Not going to be able to get a shot at him currently because he's not out in the open. So I'm just looking for shots into the 1224 or anyone in this middle area of the castle. The M60A1 is currently spotted though, so I decided, okay, let's have a look and see if he's moving to a better position. He has. So we fire the ATGM, fire the main cannon, and just like we've done 1200 of his hit, well, 1298 of his hit points. Because that's what you want to kind of do with ATGMs a lot of the time, is if you fire the ATGM, just switch to your main cannon. But you'd like to say you've got to be careful with the Arcane Cannon, because of the fact that your gun is so much lower than where the ATGM can be. It's one of those things that you do have to end up being careful with where you're positioning yourself to fire the ATGM as well as use the main cannon, because you can end up having a lot of time where your gun isn't actually looking over a ridgeline, but your ATGM is, and then you end up aiming your gun at the ridgeline, so the ATGM then just dips into the floor as it was firing at someone. So these shots here at the T55 AM2B and the WZ122, oh, we got very fortunate there as that ELC, even SS12 didn't hit us. But those shots into those guys there is indicative of this gun, right? When you get this gun fully aimed, a lot of the time it will hit. But it's got .26 accuracy, we're like 300 meters away from those dudes. .26 accuracy is incredibly accurate, but yet it likes to dip shots into the floor. You sit there going, that's not .26 accuracy, that's more like .36, .37. What are you doing to me, Cold War? What is your accuracy sometimes? What are you doing? Oh well. So we're up to that 2.1k damage, and again, that position that we were in is becoming a bit untenable. Reasons? ELC even SS12, right? And the fact that they've still got a light tank somewhere that could just come screaming around a corner and try and machine gun us, because I think there's a Weasel in this game, or it's an XM800T, one of the two. We've got to be extremely careful. We were very isolated in that position we were in, so we've just had to go reposition ourselves to try and find better ways of getting damage. Because again, if that ELC, even SS12, had snuck around the K-line, he could quite easily get shots into us and then just smash us for 1200, which wouldn't be great. Or the Weasel could end up, or the XM800T, whichever one. There it is, XM800T. The XM800T could come scream around the corner and do what he just did to that dude, and just put a load of shells in. So we're up to 3.3k damage with 516 assistance. And again, I'm in a position where I'm kind of isolated. I want to get a bit closer to my teammates and get into a better position to support the team as they push the guys in the castle. We tried to get the ATGM into the Monsterjäger that got spotted in the middle, but yeah, unfortunately he managed to pull himself back before that ATGM got anywhere near. So the next target is to try and go after Mr. Leopard 1A1. I mean, at this point, we're full health, so we may as well go in, maybe take a hit, dish out 1 or 2 shots into him, or go after the Conqueror Mark II that's in the middle here. But as I was thinking about going through this gap here, I look at it and go, well, that dead T-55 AM2B means I can't go through that gap, and I don't really think I'll have the engine power to push him out of the way. It would just waste time. Let's go through this gap instead and go after Mr. Leopard. So we put a shot into the Leopard. He thankfully misses. The AM2B is trying to come over and get a shot at someone, so I fire the ATGM at him. And unfortunately, we just lead that poorly as it ends up hitting the ridgeline. We could have actually penned that guy in the turret roof there with the ATGM, but yeah, just a bit unfortunate. So we take a hit from the Leopard, put 2 shots into him there, which ends up finishing him off. The T-55 AM2B pulls back around the corner where I can't quite get a shot at him. There's only 2 other tanks left, which is the Monsterjäger and the other TD that's been mobbed at F1. So realistically, we're likely to get any extra damage here. It's on the AM2B or on the ELC, even SS12 there, but they both get shut down, meaning, again, we finished the game with a fairly average total there for the Arcane Cannon, with the epic victory, the 1 kill, the 516 assistance damage, the second class with that 1133 base XP. Again, average game there for the vehicle. So we're on to the third replay, and this third replay, we're now on this map, which is Vineyards, and on Vineyards, what I want to do is go to about K4, J4, that little area there, because that position there, we can attack the people that go along the JK line, right? But also, I can launch ATGMs from there at people that do camp in their position at D3, because I can try, especially with the ATGM position the way it is on this vehicle, I can use it to look over the rock face and try and spot and see their guys with true vision and just launch an ATGM into this unsuspecting, unspotted vehicle. Also, if people start getting spotted and are sitting on the ridge lines at A5, A6, you can also shoot them from here as well. So we're getting to the position that I want to be in. I need to use the ridge on my left to get me a bit of elevation, really, to stay unspotted. But, well, we didn't need it. Because, again, that's where I'm talking about. Look at that. I can see over that rock face with the ATGM. I can't see over it with my main cannon. But we managed to dish out the ATGM into that Leopard 1 that was just sitting there unspotted. And unbeknownst to him, the ATGM flew in, did 900 damage, set him on fire, tracked him, and somebody finished him off. And we got a load of assistance damage for that as well. So we put the shot into the Bagel Panzer that's over there as well, and that's what I mean. Like, from this position here, you get easy shots along people that push along the ABC line, which they generally do. A lot of the time they will send maybe 2 or 3 tanks to J2, J3, but most of their team will push up north and then across the AB line and then down the 8-9 line. That's just the way it tends to go in Vineyards, and a lot of that, our team just camp at J9 and don't move, and that's always been the way of Vineyards in Era 2 as well, or Era 1 as well. And then you've got the couple of people like me who will end up pushing out of this position along the 1-2. So we see another victim. Hello, M113. We get 1 shot with the ATGM into the M113 there, putting us up to 2.5k damage with 1256 assistance damage. Just waiting on the ATGM again because I can't see over that ridge. I don't want to overexpose myself over that ledge because, again, there's a BZT-70 looking at us. So we don't want to take a big hit from that dude, because again, that dude is not going to struggle to pen us. So we go over with the ATGM, fire. We're thinking about firing it towards the Monsterjäger, but yeah, he pulls back. I fire it, because did you see the Monsterjäger fire there? The Monsterjäger fired, and I thought, well, naturally, Monsterjäger spotted. He fires his clip. He's going to pull back, naturally, right? He's going to fall back. So I fired the ATGM preemptively, and yeah, he just stayed there in the open spotted. And so he didn't pull back and take my ATGM, which is a sad time. And then we also make a big dum-dum boo-boo. And the thing that we've been trying to avoid doing, which is driving around this corner so the BZT-70 doesn't shoot us in the side of the turret with a HE round, happened. And he took away 1,400 of our hit points because we're a big dum-dum. Me dum-dum, not you dum-dum, me want gum-gum. Because Arcane Cannon and me being an idiot means that we lost a lot of hit points. But that's why we like the... That is why we like the patch kit, though, especially nowadays. It used to be not that good at all because you only gain very, very little hit points back, realistically. But now we can gain back quite a bit of hit points. It's useful. We gained over 400 hit points there from just sitting still for a bit, meaning that we've got a bit more hit points to take shots. Now, we get really fortunate there. To be honest, we get very fortunate there. That guy probably, especially if he fired HE, would have killed us. So, very fortunate. We'll take you take the rough with the smooth in this game. You take the rough with the smooth. Sometimes RNGesus can go, you know what? Screw you, dude. You're just going to die now. And sometimes RNGesus can go, okay, you know what? I'll let you off. I've treated you badly, and okay, what am I saying? RNGesus never thinks, okay, I've treated you badly enough at times, let's give you a bit of good RNG. Most of the time, it still just likes to laugh at you. But anyway, we get an ATGM into the Type 74E there, putting us up to 5.1k damage. And as you can see now, we've got the problem that we've not got the med kit, which means we've got a dead loader. Now, Jack of all trades means that the penalty for that dead loader is reduced by 50%, so we've still got a quicker reload than we'd have if we didn't have Jack of all trades, but it does mean that our reload has now suffered a wee bit, because instead of having that 5.3 second reload, as you can see, we've now got more like the reload's about, what, 6.5, 7 second reload, and that's the pain with having that dead loader, and the ATGM's gone to 32 seconds to reload it as well. And that's what I mean. When you're taking the pain tolerance, you've got Jack of all trades, that sort of thing, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to not get your crew killed. There's still a big possibility that your crew will die, especially with the autocannon vehicles slamming shells into you like the MX-30Bs and stuff. So, yeah, that can be a royal pain when you do actually finally lose a crew member. You sit there going, oh, really? Great. So we get a load of hit points back with the patch kit. You can see I'm trying to stay as stationary as possible, because if I move, the amount of HP I get back is reduced. But we're at that point now where they've got 4 tanks left. We need to get ourselves going towards where those 4 tanks are, because our team is starting to maraud towards them. So we aim up the shot towards the Monster Jaeger. Sadly, I think we actually hit the rock face there, because he got around that corner just as we fired it. So we don't quite get the shot into the Monster Jaeger. The light tank in the Bagel Panzer is just managing to shut down the M60A2, but the Monster Jaeger's appeared, so we put a shot into the Monster Jaeger there. Don't have an ATGM loaded, so I can't deliver that towards him. Hopefully managed to finish him off. Very bad aim there. That was just, yeah, poor aim. We didn't manage to hit the Monster Jaeger because he deviated to the right. I thought he was just going to deviate to the left, so we just led for that, but it didn't happen, so yeah, we ended up missing the shot. There's still the 2 Monster Jaegers left. One is being closed down by the medium tank. We try and hit the other Monster Jaeger on the move, and actually that shot went directly where we aimed it. It's just that the Monster Jaeger wasn't there, but the Monster Jaeger is closing in on our Leopard 1A1. So we put a shot into the side of that Monster Jaeger, decided to fire an ATGM, but there was a big rock there, so it was never going to hit him, and the Leopard 1A1 shuts him down. And we finished the game with a pretty good total there for the Arcane Cannon with the victory. 6.5k damage, the 1 kill, 2,000 assistance damage, 8.5k combined, which is apparently an ace tanker with the Confederate medal and that 1461 base XP. A pretty low base average for this Arcane Cannon. I'd assume that's that's because the same as always, the requirements for the MOE and the ace tanker are set to the highest of its tank class and era area. So this is a bottom era TD, a bottom era 2 TD, so it's set to probably the requirements for a TD that is bottom era 2. So that's probably an object 120 for era 2, which realistically is always going to be low. It's either the object 120 or the M113, which even then it's still going to be fairly low. I think they're the only, if my brain is serving me correctly, I think they are the only candidates for that. M113 and the Object 120 is bottom era 2 TDs. Could be wrong, but yeah. I feel like this tank is a hell of a lot better than those 2 vehicles, because you've got this multi-weapon system where you've got a really nice ATGM and a pretty consistent gun, as long as you get it fully aimed, because, you know, you've already seen the gun can be a bit of a pain at times. But this game is going to prove where the gun can be nice, and when you get it fully aimed and you get in this nice farmy location, you can just consistently push out damage as well as using the ATGMs. But yeah, since their requirements are probably low for both of those, it's made it fairly easy to get an ace tanker and stuff like that in the Arcane Cannon, because I feel like it is more consistently better than those 2 vehicles. So we're here on the final replay of the video, and this one we are now on Hell's Highway, which is obviously naturally a map that is the Halloween version of Highway, which is not a map that is a Cold War map. And this is pretty much why, to be honest. This is why why Highway isn't a Cold War map. Because you can do what I'm doing here, sit in this position, and farm across the map very, very easily. Now on highway, that would also be the problem because it'd be far easier to get target acquisition with true vision because there is no darkness, there is no sort of fog. It makes it very, very easy to be able to shoot the people across the way because you can see exactly where they are. It just makes people a sitting duck. Like that Conqueror who tried to get out of spawn. We just wrecked the poor dude before he could even get out of spawn because, yeah, we managed to get to an early position. There was a light tank at E5 and he spotted everyone as they tried to cross out their spawn, meaning we got 4,000 damage very, very early, very, very easy. So, yeah. That's the problem with Highway, and Hell's Highway is no different. It's just that it's a bit harder to use True Vision because it's a bit darker. Still not a great map for Cold War, to be fair, but there we go. So, Mr. Leopard is hiding behind destructible cover. I use my main cannon to destroy the destructible cover, and then fire the ATGM to finish off Mr. Leopard 1. There is no hiding from me, Leopard 1. I have a main cannon and an ATGM on the multi-weapon system. Yes, I do. So we got rid of that Leopard 1, which means there's nothing else on this flank with us anymore. So we've got free reign to just sit here and farm as our tanks at G2 spot the enemy tanks across the way. And as their team try to run away in the open as well, we can just absolutely farm away. And that's basically what we're going to do. And it's the strength of this vehicle, again, just like any other TD you get, or any other support vehicle, because that's obviously what this is. It is a support vehicle. Is if you can not be the focus of people's... Wow, that went quite far away, but then that was also not fully aimed. If you can be in a position where you're not being the focus of attention, and you can just keep your DPM rolling with your ATGMs flying out as well, you can just help your team very, very effectively. You can keep this damage going. And as you can see, we've got a smorgasbord of tanks to shoot at. Unfortunately, that one missed. That's where the shell velocity would be a little bit nicer if it was a bit faster, realistically. And it's not quite as quick as quite a few vehicles in Cold War with that 1200-odd shell velocity, but there we go. So I've now got the ATGM back in. I'm just trying to see the enemy vehicles with true vision. We see the Bagel Panzer there. We can just see his turret above the ridgeline. We managed to put that shot into the side of the turret of the Bagel Panzer, just scanning the ridge with true vision again. You can see it is pretty difficult to be able to see them even with true vision because of just the darkness on this map. But we managed to get the ATGM into the side of that Type 80-2 because we managed to, well, we got lucky really. There was no planning in that whatsoever. I'm not even going to try and fake that. We had absolutely no planning in that ATGM towards the Type 80-2. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get the ATGM into the Type 80-2. Tried to aim it for the light tank and then went, oh, actually, I can see the side of the turret of the Type 80-2 and managed to fly it in from the right-hand side. If I'd kept it in that straight line, I probably wouldn't have hit it, but just because of the way it deviated past the ridgeline, we managed to get it into him. So yeah, a bit of luck, but there you go. So we try and get the ATGM into the TATB, but the TATB ends up falling back there. We should probably load at this range the 446 pen APCR rounds because the AP is probably going to struggle even with the lower plate of a TATB from this distance. So we should definitely have the premium in, but we're just not doing that. We're just sticking with the AP at this point in time. Unfortunately, we didn't pen the T72M1. We only tracked it. The TATB is the last one alive on the enemy team. He's just YOLO'd into our TATB and killed him. Just with him now tracked, can we get the shot into that lower plate? But oh no, the shot goes up into the upper plate, bounces, and he gets shut down by the bandit there. Finishing off the game with a fantastic total for the Arcane Cannon on Hell's Highway. We finished with the epic victory. 2 kills, 9,680 damage, 1170 assistance damage, the Ace Tanker, the High Caliber, the Confederate Medal for 1470 base XP. Really good game there for the Arcane Cannon. And yeah, that's the Arcane Cannon, which is the new tank for Halloween for 2025. Like I say, it's a pretty solid bottom era tank destroyer. It's better than probably what's already in the game in terms of the tech tree ones, the M113 and the Object 120, because you've got that multi-weapon system as well as the main cannon, and most of the time these multi-weapon system tanks are very, very potent. It's not terrible. It's also not great. It's just one of those vehicles that's probably pretty well balanced. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!